On a quiet Saturday, I clicked on a folder my wife had labeled "Goodbye, Do Not Open," and watched my life come apart in HD. By the time the 58-minute video ended, I wasn't wondering if my marriage was over. I was already planning how to walk away with my name and my dignity. My name's Ethan Walker. I pour concrete for a living at scale, parking garages, mid-rise condos, office shells, things that are supposed to last longer than the people who use them. I've always liked that. Straight lines. Load paths. You do your math, you get your result. No surprises if you do it right. That Saturday, I wasn't looking for surprises. It was just me in the home office, coffee gone lukewarm, cleaning old junk off the shared computer. Tax PDFs, expired warranties, vacation photos I kept meaning to sort. Normal. Then I see it. Alyssa's iCloud still synced in the corner. And under Documents, a folder named "Goodbye, Do Not Open." Every part of me knew what a smart man should do. Close the window. Log her out. Pretend I never saw it. My old man drilled that into me growing up. You don't snoop, son. You either trust your woman or you don't, and if you don't, you leave. But you don't dig through her pockets like a boy. I've lived by that. I'm not the type to go hunting for text messages at midnight. I pick people I believe in and I stand on that choice. But my thumb hovered over the trackpad and that animal part of my brain woke up. The one that smells smoke before you see flames. It said, if you walk away, you're not trusting her. You're just choosing not to know. So I clicked. Inside one file, 58-minute video, timestamped, dated exactly 2 days before our wedding. My first thought wasn't even anger. It was denial dressed up as logic. Probably some dumb bridesmaid speech. Maybe a sappy goodbye to single life. That's what I told myself as my chest got heavy and my mouth went dry. I opened it. And here's the thing. My life didn't blow apart like a movie explosion. There was no slow-motion scream, no glass shattering in the background. It was quieter than that. I watched the play bar crawl forward, second by second, and felt my life split down the middle like a hairline crack in a slab. Too small to panic over at first, but you know it's only going one way. Before I hit play, I still believed in my marriage. By the time that video ended, I believed in my father instead. He used to say, "Don't ever stay where you're not respected. A man who stays after that stops being a man and starts being furniture." Sitting there in that office chair, staring at Alyssa frozen on the first frame in a plastic tiara and a sash. I didn't know everything yet. But I knew this, whatever was on that video, it was going to demand a decision from me. And as bad as you're imagining it is right now, it's worse. Before you judge the man I am now, you need to understand the man I was when I met Alyssa. It was a Thursday night downtown, one of those forced networking events my boss loved and I hated. A room full of name tags, flat beer, and people saying, "Let's circle back," like it meant anything. I was hugging the back wall, counting how many exits the conference room had, wondering how early I could leave without getting a call the next morning. Then she stepped up to the front. Alyssa Morgan, marketing lead, running a branding presentation about storytelling in construction. I expected fluff. Instead, she was sharp, funny, took friendly shots at industry jargon, made the room laugh, and somehow made rebar sound romantic. She had that alive energy, hands moving, eyes locked in, like she actually believed what she was saying. Afterwards, my boss shoved me forward to make connections. I walked up, said something about half the slides being wrong on the engineering side. She laughed, didn't flinch, fired back about my shirt being 2 sizes too serious for a Thursday. That was it. Hook set. Coffee came first. A midtown place with bad parking and good espresso. We talked about campaigns, budgets, city permits, building codes, her love of stories, my love of straight answers. Then coffee turned into drinks in South Congress. Heat finally dropping, neon signs waking up, her ankle boots tapping against the bar stool as she told me about growing up with a single mom who hustled through 3 jobs and never complained. Our worlds shouldn't have fit. She lived in ideas and pitch decks. I lived in schedules, concrete strength tests, and guys who only texted in numbers and photos. But somehow it worked. She liked that I had dirt under my nails. I liked that she could talk a mile a minute and still listen when I answered. Started small. A hoodie left by accident. Her shampoo in my shower. A drawer in my dresser becoming her drawer. Then overflowing into the next one. Toothbrush beside mine. Her blazer on the back of my office chair. My quiet house slowly rearranged itself until my place turned into our place. And it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like an upgrade. Nights got simple in a good way. Netflix mumbling in the background while something overcooked in the oven. She danced barefoot in the kitchen with a glass of wine as some playlist she loved bled through a Bluetooth speaker. We'd pause a movie halfway and end up talking about kids. Someday. Trips to Europe we'd probably never take. Tearing down the back wall of the house to put in bigger windows. I remember the proposal because it was clumsy as hell. No fireworks, no photographer hiding in the bushes. Just me in our kitchen, palms sweating, ringing in my pocket, pretending to care about a pot of boiling pasta. She turned around to grab plates, and I was suddenly on one knee, voice coming out tighter than I wanted. "Marry me," I said. No speech, no poetry, just that. She laughed first, this shocked, breathless sound, and then she cried. Then she said yes about 4 times in a row. We celebrated with cheap wine and oversalted dinner, and it felt right. Solid. Like I'd finally poured a foundation in my own life. The wedding day was at a small church that smelled like old wood and candle wax. I remember standing at the front, hands clasped, heart pounding, watching her walk down the aisle in white like every promise I'd ever made to myself was finally paying off. I looked at her and thought, that's home. I've built things my whole life, but this is the thing that matters. What I didn't know, what I couldn't even begin to imagine, was what she'd been doing 48 hours before that walk. If you draw out my family tree, Travis Collins is a branch you almost forget to add. Technically, he's my cousin. In reality, he's a guy I saw at Christmas every few years, the odd barbecue, a funeral or two. We never fought, never bonded. Just traded the same recycled small talk over paper plates and lukewarm potato salad. "How's work?" "Busy." "You?" "Yeah, busy." That was us. 2 men related by blood, connected by nothing. When Alyssa and I started building the guest list, I aimed for tight. People who mattered. People who actually knew us. My mom had other ideas. She hovered over the list at my kitchen table, reading every name like a lawyer. "Where's Travis?" she asked. "He's fine where he is. At home." She gave me that look. Half disappointment, half guilt trip. "Ethan, he's family. Your uncle would be hurt. It's one dinner. One invitation." Could have said no. Could have held the line. Instead, I shrugged, grabbed a pen, and wrote his name down. One more chair. One more plate. A favor to keep peace. On the wedding day, Travis showed up in a decent suit and a big grin, like he'd been there since the engagement. He wrapped me in a bear hug, slapped my back, and said, "Proud of you, man." It sounded rehearsed, but I didn't care. My mind was on Alyssa, on vows, on not passing out in front of a priest. There are photos from that day, hundreds. I never looked at it twice, but later, going back through them with different eyes, certain shots started to feel off. Me in my suit, Alyssa in white, Travis next to us, too close to her shoulder. Her hand on his arm in a way that reads like nothing at the time and everything later. Smiles that don't match the moment. Eyes holding a beat too long. Back then, he was just another body in a rented chair. Another clapping pair of hands when we kissed. Another relative my mom could point to and say, "See? The whole family came." I didn't know it yet, but that day I wasn't just inviting him to my wedding. I was inviting my biggest mistake to stand there and watch me make vows he already knew she couldn't keep. Back to that Saturday. Back to the folder. Back to the video. First frame. A downtown hotel suite. Balloons, cheap banners, empty plastic cups on every flat surface. Pop songs bleeding through tinny speakers. The screen shakes. The camera's in someone's hand. Not steady, catching half the room and half the ceiling. Alyssa's right in the middle of it. She's in a sash that says, "Bride." Plastic tiara tilted in her hair. Makeup done like a magazine cover. She's laughing, loud and loose, champagne glass in her hand. Friends orbiting around her. For a second, It hits me like nostalgia. I even feel my mouth twitch toward a smile. Just a bachelorette party, I tell myself. Harmless. Women get loud before they settle down. No big deal. Then the angle changes. The phone steadies. The girl holding it, one of her bridesmaids, I recognize the voice, moves toward a connecting door. The music muffles as they step into the next room. The lighting's softer. The tone shifts. That's when I see them. 3 guys. Not hotel staff. Not random dudes in bow ties from some party package. Just men in jeans and t-shirts, beers in hand, sitting around like they belong there. They're relaxed. Too relaxed. Alyssa doesn't act surprised. She doesn't flinch, doesn't look back at her friends like, "What's going on?" She walks straight toward them with a familiar smile, the kind you give someone you already know too well. Off camera, her friend laughs and says, "Finally, the surprise is here." The frame tilts, settles, and one of the men turns toward her. It's Travis. For a second, my brain refuses to bridge the gap. I know Travis from family cookouts and stiff shirts at funerals. I know him with paper plates and cheap beer, not in a hotel suite 2 days before my wedding with my fiancé walking toward him like gravity. They talk. I don't hear the words. My ears are ringing. What I do see is body language. Her leaning in, his hand on her waist like it's been there 100 times. Then they kiss. Not drunk, clumsy, strangers at a bar kissing. Slow. Intentional. Familiar. Her friends whistle. Someone giggles behind the camera, and the sound makes my skin crawl. They slip out to the balcony. The camera doesn't follow, but it lingers on the closed door, catches shadows moving, hands, shapes. When they come back in, her lipstick's blurred and his belt is shifted, and one of her friends says, okay, save some for the honeymoon. And everyone laughs like this is just another inside joke. The phone drops to a lower angle. There are side comments, little lines that only land if you know the truth. Told you he'd drive you crazy before the big day. Last chance before you become a wife. More laughter. I don't realize I'm holding my breath until my chest hurts. Then my eyes flick to the corner of the screen. The timestamp glows like a brand. 2 days before our wedding. 48 hours before I stood in a church and promised her forever. My father's voice cuts through the noise in my head. Son, a crack you can see is better than a lie you can't. Watching that video, I finally saw the crack. And I knew this wasn't some drunk mistake at a party. This was a life I didn't know I was living. When the video ended, I didn't move. The screen went black. My reflection stared back at me. Jaw locked, eyes flat, shoulders tight enough to crack. The laptop fan whirred like it was the only thing breathing in the room. Then everything hit at once. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it echoed down the hallway. The chair scraped back, almost tipped. I started pacing the office, a tight line between the desk and the window. My hands wanted something to break. A wall, a picture frame, anything. Instinct said, call her. Drag her home. Put the video on the TV and burn it all down in one screaming, ugly hour. Neighbors hearing every word. Her crying. Me yelling. Maybe cops at the door. I stopped in the middle of the room, palms on my knees, breathing hard. That's when my father's voice cut in, clear as if he was standing behind me. A man's dignity is worth more than any outburst. You can lose your temper or you can keep your power. You don't get both. I straightened up. Punching a wall wouldn't change the timestamp on that video. Throwing a fit wouldn't erase Travis from that balcony. All an outburst would do is give her a story where I was the crazy one. So I made a choice. I opened the laptop again, not to watch, but to copy. I dragged the video onto a thumb drive, named it something boring, slid it into my pocket. Then I grabbed a small notebook from my desk and started writing. Dates, names, anything I remembered that suddenly felt suspicious. Work trips, girls' nights out. Sometimes she was too tired or at a late meeting. If this was a demolition, I was going to do it like a professional, planned, controlled, with everyone clear on why the building was coming down. I remembered a coworker, Nolan, who'd once mentioned using a digital investigator during a company mess. Quiet guy. No drama. Just results. I texted him one line. Need the guy you used. Discreet. He sent back a name and a number, Ron Harper. We met that evening at a worn coffee shop that smelled like burnt beans and old wood. Ron was older, gray at the temples, eyes that had seen too much and judged none of it. Tell me what you have, he said. I slid the notebook across the table, then the thumb drive. My wife. Her iCloud is still synced on our home computer. There's a video. I need everything, messages, photos, deleted stuff, location history. All of it. He nodded like I'd asked him to fix a leaky pipe. I'll need access. Passwords, device list, any accounts you know about. I gave him everything. Email, iCloud, social, the works. Signing away privacy that wasn't really mine to protect anymore. How long? I asked. 48 hours, he said. I can pull what's there and what she thought she erased. Same number as the gap between that video and our wedding. The next 2 days were a special kind of hell. At home, I was normal. I cooked dinner with her. We watched shows side by side on the couch. She leaned her head on my shoulder, talking about a possible promotion, a trip she wanted us to take to the coast, colors she was thinking about for the guest room. I answered like a husband, nodded, threw in jokes, played the part. Inside, I felt nothing but cold space. Every time her phone buzzed, I wondered if it was him. Every laugh from her sounded a pitch too high. I noticed things I'd never clocked before. The way she guarded her screen, the slight delay before she answered certain texts. My own phone was the one I waited on. On the second night, around 9, it finally rang. Unknown number. Ethan Walker, I answered. Mr. Walker, it's Ron. His voice was steady. Seriously, I've got your report. I sat down at my office desk without thinking. Okay. There was a pause. Paper rustling. Then quietly, you'd better sit down for this. When Ron said sit down, I thought he was being dramatic. He wasn't. I locked my office door, put the phone on speaker, and opened my laptop. Ron had emailed a report, organized, color-coded, too clean for what it contained. I'll walk you through it, he said. First page, timelines, columns, dates. You see the overlap? He asked. I did. Messages between Alyssa and Travis started months before our engagement. Not a one-off, not a slip, pattern. Location data matched nights she said she was grabbing drinks with coworkers. Photos lined up with weekends I was out of town on site visits. My life in one column. Their life is another, running parallel the whole time. This didn't start at the Bachelorette, Ron said. That was just one more chapter. He wasn't telling me anything the evidence hadn't already screamed, but hearing it out loud stung. I scrolled. Threads of deleted texts reconstructed. Photos blurred out in the report but labeled. Short videos she thought were gone. Emojis. Inside jokes. The casual tone of people who've done the wrong thing enough times that it starts feeling normal. Do you want me to read a few? He asked. Yeah, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. He picked some. Travis? I hate sharing you with him. Alyssa? You don't. You get the real me. Another. Travis? Call in sick and come over. I miss you. Alyssa? He's at a site all day. I'll say I'm working late. Each line was a hammer tap on the same crack. Then Ron got quiet. There's one more you should hear, he said. You okay? Just read it. Paper rustled. Travis? Are you really going to marry him? Alyssa? Of course. He's the safe plan. You're the fun. The words landed like a cold knife. Not the kind you scream over, the kind that makes everything suddenly calm. Safe plan. That's what I was. The mortgage, the steady income, the man who shows up. She wasn't marrying me. She was marrying what I provided and sneaking off with what she wanted. My father used to say, if someone turns you into a backup plan, you walk. You're not a contingency. Sitting there, I realized I hadn't lost a real marriage. I'd lost a strategy someone built around me. And then I remembered the prenup. A folder in my file drawer, drafted by my attorney, Michael Dorsey, before the wedding. Back then, it felt almost insulting, planning for failure when things were good. Alyssa barely skimmed it, signed without a fight, said, "I trust you." I pulled it out now, paper rough under my fingers, and read the sections on infidelity and asset protection like they were brand new. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd put her name on the exact terms of her own exit. Once you know your life's a lie, you get one real choice: perform or proceed. I chose proceed. The next day, I treated my house like a job site. No emotion, just prep. I dragged the HDMI cable out, connected my laptop to the living room TV, and tested the audio. The Bachelorette video sat on the desktop, ready. Ron's dossier and the pulled messages were in a neat folder, one click away. Phone on the coffee table, recording app open but screen dimmed. By the time Alyssa's car pulled into the driveway, the room was set. She walked in glowing, heels in one hand, work bag on her shoulder. "Babe, you will not believe the day I had," she said, dropping a stack of folders on the counter. "I'm this close to a promotion. We should celebrate. Maybe dinner downtown." I let her talk. I watched her move around the kitchen like it was any other Wednesday. Only when she finally paused for air did I say, "There's something I want to show you first." Her eyes lit up. "Wedding footage? Oh my God. Finally." "Yeah," I said. "Something like that." We sat on the couch. I hit play. The hotel suite filled the TV. Balloons. Tiara. Her face, younger by a few years but the same. At first she smiled, that warm look people get when they see old fun. "Oh wow, I forgot about this night," she said. "We were so." Then the camera followed her into the other room. The three men came into frame. Travis turned toward the lens. Her smile cracked. "What is this?" she asked. "You tell me," I said. She stood up fast, reaching for the remote on the coffee table. I picked it up first and kept it in my hand. "Alyssa," I said, voice steady. "Just watch." She sat back down slowly. The room went quiet except for the TV. The kiss. The balcony. The jokes. The timestamp glowing in the corner. 2 days before our wedding. I paused the video on that frame, her lips on Travis, his hand on her waist. The silence felt thick. It was stupid," she started. "I was drunk. It was a dare. It didn't mean." I unplugged the HDMI, swung the laptop back to me, and opened Ron's report. "I've got months of messages," I said. "Locations, photos, deleted threads. You want to try that again?" Color drained from her face. I read a few out loud. Not yelling, just presenting. The dates of the meetups that lined up with my trips. The "you get the real me" line. And then, finally, the one that changed everything for me. "Of course. He's the safe plan. You're the fun." Her hand flew to her mouth. She started crying hard, words spilling out. I was scared. "I didn't mean it that way. You have to understand. It was before we got serious. I love you, Ethan. It's always been you." A whole storm of excuses and half-truths. I let her talk until she started looping. Then I dropped the last piece. "I had all this before you walked in," I said. "And my phone's been recording since you got home. Everything you've said tonight, the explanations, the timeline, it's all saved." Her eyes snapped to my phone. "You're recording me?" "I am," I said, "because I'm done living in stories you control. This is evidence now, not a conversation." She broke then, really broke. The polished, clever version of her fell away, and what came out was raw, messy truth. How it started with Travis, how they used my trips, how she wanted stability and excitement, how she never thought it would go this far, how she figured she'd grow out of it after the wedding. I didn't shout. I didn't call her names. I just let her pile her own words higher and higher until there was no way around them. By the time she ran out of things to say, I had exactly what I needed. Her confession, in her voice, in my house, on my terms. The morning after the living room trial, there was no big fight. No plates thrown, no bags packed in a rage. Just a cold, clean silence hanging in the house like dust. Alyssa slept in the guest room. I showered, shaved, put on a clean shirt, and left without saying goodbye. I drove straight to Michael Dorsey's office. Michael's the kind of attorney who never wastes a word. Mid-50s, sharp eyes. Tie always a little loose like he's already 3 steps into the next case. He was the one who drafted my prenup. Back then, we joked about me overbuilding my protections. He didn't joke this time. I laid everything on his desk. The thumb drive with the video, Ron's printed report, a copy of the messages, and my phone with the recording of Alyssa's confession. Michael went through it like he was inspecting a cracked foundation. Slow, methodical, checking every seam. "This is clear infidelity," he said. "And the messages and recording give us fraudulent inducement. She married you under false pretenses while maintaining another relationship. The prenup holds. Your house and premarital savings are locked in." He outlined the plan. File for divorce. Cite infidelity. Enforce the agreement as written. Minimal negotiation. No generous, fresh start settlement for someone who used me as a safe investment. We filed that day. Driving back, I stopped by a job site, walked the perimeter, checked forms, talked to the crew. It was surreal. Signing off on rebar placement while somewhere across town a process server was handing my wife divorce papers with her own messages attached. My phone lit up all afternoon. First with calls. I didn't answer. Then with texts, long blocks of apology and panic. She wrote about being scared, about pressure, about childhood wounds, about how losing me would destroy her. I read them once, not because I was tempted, but because I wanted to understand the story she was telling herself. Then I blocked her number, not to punish, to protect. The hearing itself was quiet, almost boring. A dusty courtroom. A judge who'd seen too much to be impressed by tears. Alyssa sat on one side with her attorney, eyes red, hand shaking around a tissue. I sat on the other with Michael, steady. Michael presented the video, the chat logs, the investigative report, the audio recording of her confession. The judge listened like a mechanic listening to an engine, no emotion, just cause and effect. The prenup was upheld. The house stayed mine. My premarital savings stayed mine. Most shared assets tilted my direction. Her attorney tried to push for more. The judge shut it down. On the paperwork, under grounds, it said, "Infidelity by the wife." I walked out of that courthouse into the Texas sun feeling hollow and solid at the same time. I'd lost a marriage, sure, but that marriage had been built on lies. What I walked away with mattered more. My name, my home, my dignity. Life after a divorce like that doesn't start with fireworks. It starts with empty. For a while, my days were stripped down to the studs. Work, gym, shower, sleep, simple meals. A quiet house that stayed exactly how I left it. No arguments, no fake smiles, just space. People picked sides. Some of her friends tried the "we didn't know" routine. Some definitely did. Anyone still partying with Alyssa slid out of my life by default. I didn't send angry texts or demand loyalty. I just stopped showing up. Secondhand loyalty is like secondhand smoke. Eventually, it makes you sick. Somewhere in there, I realized I wasn't checking her social media anymore. Her life turned into background noise. Something happening in another city, to another man. In that empty space, someone else stepped in. Melissa Hayes worked in HR at our company. I'd known her for years as, "Hey, can you fix my login?" Girl. Practical. Dry sense of humor. No performance. It started with quick hallway jokes, then turned into real lunches, actual conversations about stress, mistakes, family, not surface-level BS. We didn't rush it. No big speeches. Just one rule we both agreed on early. Tell the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable. We'd both seen what happens when people use lies as insulation. One night at a work event, she was standing next to me, hand light on my arm, and someone asked, "And you are?" I said, "My girlfriend." Without overthinking it, felt clean, right? Not a bandage, an actual choice. Some months later, at another downtown hotel networking thing, I saw Alyssa. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, energy-wise. Less shine, more caution. She spotted me, hesitated, then walked over with a glass of wine. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." I held her eyes, felt anger, and hurt. Nothing. Just distance. Don't worry about it, I said. No edge, no invitation, just a closed door. I turned back to my conversation. She got the message. The real ending came on another quiet Saturday. Same home office, same computer. I was cleaning up files again. Buried in an old directory, I saw it. Goodbye. Do not open. The folder that split my life in two. The video was still inside. I hovered over it, finger resting on the mouse. For a second, I thought about watching it, one last morbid tour through the wreckage. Then it hit me. That file had already done its job. It had protected my assets, exposed the truth, cut me free from a life where I was the safe plan while she chased fun in hotel rooms. Proof isn't a prison. It's an exit. I right-clicked the file, hit delete. The confirmation popped up. Are you sure? Yeah, I said out loud, and clicked yes. The folder vanished. So here's what I'll say to any man listening. Trust is earned. Blind trust is just laziness with a moral mask on. If your gut says something's off, don't drown it in hope. Listen, get facts, protect yourself. And if you ever find proof that the person beside you sees you as a backup plan, understand this. You don't have to scream. You don't have to beg. You don't have to stay. You pick up your dignity, you walk toward the door, and you build a life where you are nobody's safe plan. You're the man who's enough all by himself.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.